Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Transcendental Catholic channel. Today, we're really going to dive into what the four pillars are of Catholic social teachings, and this is kind of going to give us a leadway into the topics we're going to be talking about, because how this channel is going to work. And I should probably mention that this channel is actually going to be endless. All right, I might be presenting it as like it's going to have a beginning and an end, but the fact is, Catholic social teachings applies to the human condition. So topics are endless when it comes to this. All right, we're going to talk about a ton of different topics, and topics that you guys have questions about, or things that I may not have even thought of. But all these principles can apply to all these topics and show us how we ought to live as Catholics. All right. So today I really want to just lay out what these four principles are. All right. And as we talk about these topics, we're going to apply these four principles to the topics we talk about. All right. Now, those may be in a series. They may be in one video. They may be in, multiple different videos. The possibilities are endless. All right. And that's the point of this channel is we're not going to shortchange you. We want to make sure that you learn from this channel so that we learn how to actually live out our Catholic faith in a real way, all right, in a very practical way that's actually giving you examples on how we ought to live our everyday lives, all right? It's not just giving you a high-end teaching, which we are going to do, all right? We are going to talk about these high-end teachings, but all right, how do I actually live it out, all right? What does that actually look like? And that's the point of this channel, is to manifest the teachings of the Church, all right? All right, so let's go ahead and then dive into these four principles of Catholic social teachings. So the first one is the dignity of the human person. And that's pretty self-evident, that God created all human beings in the image and likeness of God, and that all human beings are made out of love and for love. All right, so Catholic social teachings tells us that in every aspect of our lives, if something is not respecting the dignity and rights of the human person, then it is not a moral action. All right. So when we discuss these topics and go into them, we're going to ask that question: is this respecting the dignity and rights of the human person? If not, then it's not good. All right. We shouldn't be doing it, and we should conform to doing something else. And we'll give examples on what else we can do. All right. So that is the number one thing. And that's actually the central part of the Catholic social teachings, because without a human person, there is no Catholic social teachings. So we really have to focus primarily on, is this action, is this topic, is how we're living actually protecting the dignity and rights of the human person. All right. So to give an example, some topics we'll talk about this is sexuality. All right. And that covered many different topics. All right, we can go into the whole sexual revolution of LGBTQ, homosexuality, sex before marriage, all that. Those are all the topics we could be talking about in regards to the dignity and rights of the human person. All right, and kind of dive into those and explain all right, what is the Church's teachings? What is it? What are we called to do? How can we live out and respect the dignity and rights of these people? And what's the proper way to do it so that we can actually form our lives towards that. All right, so that's really what the dignity and rights of the human person are. All right, so the next pillar of Catholic social teachings is subsidiarity. All right, what this word means, and I'm not going to give a definition, we're just going to try to explain what it is, is it's bringing things down to a local level. All right, so it's not necessarily from top down, from bottom. It's from bottom up. All right, that the Church ought to be from the bottom up. Not saying that there's no need for an up. Obviously, we have the Pope and we have the hierarchy of the Church, but it ultimately should be that the Church works from the bottom down, not from the top. Not from the top down. I'm sorry, from the bottom up, not from the top down. All right, and that's how we should form our societies, and that's how the family works. All right, family is the the base of society. All right, no society can exist without the family. So like, all right, the family has to have input. All right, what topics can emerge about this is our government. All right, how should our government actually look to reflect Catholic social teachings? Who should we be voting for? Should we be voting? All right, that's a possible question we can go into. I'm not saying that's what I agree with, but I'm saying like these are questions that are going to come about so that we can practice, all right, manifest what it actually means to live this Catholic social teaching of subsidiarity in the world. All right, so we want to look at how we live our lives now, and are we living in a subsidized way? All right, if not, how do we conform to that? All right. Now, again, we're going to go into a bunch of different topics. A lot of this one is going to be involved with government, but also it's going to involve family. All right, how do we actually live as a family in a subsidized way? All right, so family life, again, anything that has some type of governing basis to it. And that sounds bad because you use the word governing and you think automatically government, but governing just means leadership. All right, governing who's leading, how do we ought to lead, and what's the best way to do that. All right, so we'll go into a lot of different topics with subsidiarity. Solidarity is the third pillar. All right, and that's living well with others. All right, that's kind of this idea of polity. It's living well with others, and trying to bring justice. All right, that's the main virtue that surrounds solidarity, is justice, giving what is rightly due to others. All right, and there we can see topics, again, going back to the family, but we can also see topics of immigration. We can see topics of the death penalty, stuff like that. Again, the topics are going to be endless, and all topics will touch on all of these different pillars in some way. All right. And that's the purpose of this channel is, okay, we're going to look at a topic and then we're going to apply these 4 principles to it so that we know how we ought to live in the Catholic way. All right. So that's solidarity. All right. It's really focused on justice and bringing and enabling persons to fulfill and share in the spiritual and material goods of the world. All right. Because we want our ultimate goal is to evangelize as Catholics, and solidarity is doing that in a way that is just. All right, it's doing that in a way that it's treating the other person with respect, going back to the human dignity. All right, so again, that's the third pillar. Right, it's probably one of the more complicated pillars, but we're really going to use that one a lot because justice is a big part of our world, and living well with others is something we have to do, and we need to learn how to do that better, I would say. All right. So lastly, common good. All right. That's the fourth pillar. And that is also revolving around justice in the sense of like giving others what is due to them. Everyone ought to have access to the goods. And this one also involves stewardship a lot, because common good, what it means is that everyone ought to have access to what they need, right? Whether that's spiritually or materially. And how do we make that happen? All right. Also, it means that the world is God's, all right? And we are stewards of this world, all right? So how do we live in a world that we are stewards of and make sure that everyone has access to these goods, all right? And not control them, right? Not monopolize them or remove them from certain people and give them to other people, but that make sure that everyone has access to the common good, all right? That they have access to the needs and both spiritual and material of this world. So those are the 4 pillars that we really will be dissecting in this channel. And as we go into these topics, we're going to really apply these 4 pillars of Catholic social teachings so that we learn how to live out these lives. All right. Yeah. And so again, if you have any questions, if you have any ideas about what topics we want to cover, I think the first things we're going to go into is sexuality. I think that's an important one to go into, but also just the human person in general, right? What does it mean to be a human person, right? And that will, again, dive into sexuality. Again, there's going to be many videos on this stuff. I am going to try to get some people to come in and interview so we can have more deep conversations. It's kind of boring listening to just me talk to you about this stuff. But having a conversation with someone also brings out more insight into the topics. All right. I hope this was informative, and I'm looking forward to these topics as we dive into them and bringing people in here to be interviewed and to also host debates. All right. Some of these things like we may disagree on, and it's important to get two different sides to see like, okay, maybe I was thinking about this wrong. How can I change my mind? All right. And that's one thing I'm going to say in this channel is we're searching for truth. All right. When we have these discussions, have an open mind, right? Don't close off to the idea that you could be wrong or about some things, or that the way you've been living your life may be wrong. All right. I'm going to try to do the same thing. If I have a guest on here and I disagree with him, but he makes a good point, I have to have an open mind and say like, that actually is true. And if that is true, then I have to conform my life to it. All right. So that's the whole point of this is we're all trying to be saints. And in order to do that, we have to have an open mind and conform to what is true. When we find out, when we discover something to be true, we have to conform our life to it. And that will help us become a saint. All right. Again, please like and subscribe to this channel so that we can, grow and possibly make more videos and have access to getting more people on the channel so that we can have good discussions and talk about these things in a very open way. All right. I don't want to limit anything in this channel. All right. I really want to open up and talk about these topics, even if they're uncomfortable sometimes. All right. We need to have these discussions, and we need to be honest with each other so that we can actually learn how to help each other grow in holiness. All right. Have a good day, and God bless.